Hi, Moatoh here. I'm hoping this time you'll help me with something, and that is Korg's Kaossilator. This thing is really a marvelous product. It's a musical synthesizer, but it's got a lot of other features. The first time I saw it in 2007, it sold out around the world immediately, by the way, but I was so knocked out with it, I immediately ordered 2 of them because I could see at least some of the practical applications. I want to tell you what I see, and I'm hoping you'll leave a comment if you see even more. The reason I think this is so valuable as a therapeutic device, a comfort device, a learning device, and an educational device is 3 features. The first thing is the human interface is a touchpad. Now the other one's hooked up. All I'm doing is tapping the pad. So that's the first thing. Second thing is the ability to impose a scale, and I'll show you that's major pentatonic, which is quite simple and melodious. And the third thing is the wide variety of sounds that are possible. So when I saw this, even before I bought it, the first thing I thought was autistics, children and adults. We know there's an intellect in there, and we know there are musical savants, and we know the main challenge is communication. The thing about this is with the touchpad and an imposed scale, the use of this can be 100% intuitive. You need no learning. Learning comes after. You need no education. You can make comforting music and melodious music the first time you pick it up. Let's say I give this to you in this condition. Number 1, I've chosen the flute sound. Number 2, it's major pentatonic. Number 3, it's the key of C. Major pentatonic, the first few notes of the song My Girl. Very musical, pretty easy to work with, but I'm also going to give you a background set of sounds guideline, a C and a G, which is a perfect fit. Edvard Grieg, Peer Gynt Suite, Morning. Not bad for major pentatonic. So to carry on from that, the next thing I think about, partly because of my mom, is people with some kind of physical limitation. And that includes vision, because you don't need vision to do this, whereas you might to play a piano. If you look around on YouTube, look for the word Kaossilator, you will see one in which engineers have got hold of it. And the first thing they've done is put a series of spokes on this wheel. So you don't even have to do this anymore if you can't. All you have to do is run your hand around the outside. Similarly, they have taken these push buttons and they have hooked them up to some other kind of gate. And it doesn't matter whether it's a button this big around or something that you can use a puffer on and still control the unit. So the possibilities are amazing. Now to move to my mom, she was a pianist. And at the age of 65, just struck down by severe arthritis. No more piano playing for her. Could still play this. And so there is still the ability to continue music and not that dreadful loss that comes from being totally stopped. The next thing I see is people like me. I've only just been diagnosed, and this is stunning. I've been ADD all my life. And now, when I look back, I can see that by the age of 14, I became a loner. I was really disconnected from society, couldn't make friends, and I was all by myself. So one of the things that happened was I did have one friend. I could always go to this friend. It was welcoming, challenging, never judgmental, always fun. For 15 years, and this is no exaggeration, for 15 years, my best friend was Martin, the guitar. And so if you're a loner and you have the feelings I've just described, may I introduce your next potential best friend. Next thing I see is travelers. You got to go all over the place, and you can't take something like a guitar, which I think is the most complete personal instrument. And this is what you can take. And this is all you need, by the way. Now the next one is seniors. Life becomes constricted, physical abilities begin to decline, there's more time. As a result, there's more time for this. And I'm prepared to say every senior's residence on the planet should have at least one of these available to the residents, and maybe more of them, because you can jam with them if you got more than one. And here, again, is all you need. $79 radio and a power supply. Next one, musical beginners, and a way to find out what their skill level is. I've worked with 11-year-olds and 15-year-olds. I know their parents. If you work with beginners in music, then you know the first thing you want to find out is how much native musicality there is. And the big question is, can you tell relatively higher or lower notes? And this is one good way to find out. There's a note. Is this one higher or lower? Is this one lower or higher? More important, a lot of people have perfect relative pitch and many of them don't know it. And one good way to find out, again, is this sort of thing. There's a C. Sing me an F, up a fourth. Take me up another fourth to a B flat. And then the final thing is perfect pitch. A lot of people claim it, a lot of people don't have it. So sing me a B flat right out of nowhere. How did you do? And finally, and most exciting by far, babies and infants. I've already done this with my 8-month-old granddaughter, and all you have to do, because of the way it works, you see, all you have to do is just touch the pad. And so I have put her in my lap, and she's interested in the yellow color, and I have guided her hand over here, and she just pats it, and suddenly, and she looks and does more of it. So the point is, intuitive. Of course, with a baby, just about everything is intuitive. So here's an example. What I've done is put a major pentatonic scale on the piano. Major pentatonic's the first 5 notes of the song My Girl. So that's the first thing. You can't, in my view, make unpleasant music. But the next thing is tones, and I think your baby can tell you a lot about sound preferences and maybe even something about personality, and I hope someone knowledgeable will comment on this, but you can test this. There's the piano. This is called jazz guitar. And then the flute, which I think is my favorite, complete with vibrato. But there are also polyphonics, and so sooner or later you can try your baby on the organ chord. And then you've got this issue of first intuitive, then learning, right? Repetitive ability, 4 or 5 notes in a row, and then you've got education when the child is 3 and said, Mommy, what is it I'm actually doing here, essentially? And the other thing is, why would you put on the side of your crib a little squeeze toy, wah, 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 or a bell that you can hit and that's all you can do, when you could put one of these on the side of the crib at 1 or 2? In Canada, we now start piano lessons at 2. So why not one of these with an 18-month-old? The second thing is all kinds of research you can achieve. There's plenty of research on music and the brain, and that's the real reason I'm talking about this, music and the brain, because this is a therapeutic tool, but it's also, I believe, a research tool. And by giving this to certain people, you can begin to understand things they cannot communicate any other way. So that's why I like it. Thanks a lot for listening. Again, if you've got any comments, please leave them. I'm hoping parents and teachers will watch this, therapists will watch this, counselors, and maybe even a music brain scientist or two. And from everybody, I'd love to know, do you see any value? Does this excite you? Do you know anybody else who ought to see this piece? And think about this as a therapeutic tool. It's inexpensive. It is tremendously sophisticated and yet very simple to start with. So again, thanks for watching. I'm going to leave you with one short piece that I created with only 2 passes on this thing. It is specially made for people who grew up in Britain, and by the way, one of the choices here is a theremin.